The moon is wrapping up her time in Virgo this morning at the last degrees of Virgo. And it has me thinking about one of the Virgo traits of service. Virgo, a balanced, healthy Virgo, is in service to their community, their own health, the land, in really practical and often magical ways. A conversation that's been coming up in the monastery and in my personal journaling and contemplation is the real, true act of service, differentiated from, and this is such a Virgo trait too, to really sort through and get to the discerning truth or the details of discernment, the difference between an act of service and fulfilling an obligation, meeting an expectation, responding in a way that's dutiful or loyal. How is that different than service? Is it different? Does it matter? If we're doing good in the world, does it matter the reason? Is the action what matters the most? Or does the intention suffuse the action with some sort of deeper medicine or magic? In the monastery, when we had this conversation, we're all contemplatives. And it seems to us that it really matters why we're in action, why we're in service. That service from a place of obligation or duty can breed resentment and actually create a cascade of events that sort of negate the service we've provided, both internally in our bodies and externally in the world, if we erupt out of resentment or become passive aggressive or enact all kinds of codependent behaviors because we're not aligned. And how do we know in our bodies if we're coming from a place of actual service, overflowing service, because we want to, because we desire to, or ego aggrandizement, or making ourselves valuable in order to not be left behind or abandoned in a codependent way, or edifying an image of ourselves in a narcissistic way? Like, how do we know? How do we know? And one of the themes that came up through a few of us musing about this was that when we are in service, truly, it is a flow state. It feels effortless. It feels like there's nowhere else we'd rather be. It feels like it's coming from a deep place, and there's an energy behind it that sort of opens the way. And when we're in any of those other things, it can often feel like we're using a lot of mental energy to move around obstacles or problem solve. Whereas when we're actually in service, it's like a more full bodied experience and even a spiritual experience. And in my life, I noticed that when I'm tending the gardens, when I'm pruning and trimming and filling bird feeders and cleaning out bird baths and taking down the greenhouse from the winter and, all the little things that the garden requires or the land needs for health, that is easy service for me. That is flow. It is coming from a place of alignment between my heart's desire and the needs of the world. I have endless energy for that. There are relationships in my life like that too, with humans, where I feel endless energy and flow and inspiration to be in that relationship. And There are lots of relationships in my life where I don't feel that, where I feel a lot more mental energy. Like, what is actually being asked of me here? What is the true nature of this relationship? Why do I show up for this relationship again and again and again? Like, what is the pull? What is the call? And it's not, we shouldn't always be in service. Of course, there are other reasons to do things and to be in relationship, but just really pulling through the thread of service today to honor this Virgo moon before she ingresses later today. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you tell the difference? Do you think it matters? Do you think the action speaks for itself? Is this something you've thought about or struggled with? Um, I'd love to hear your musings about it too.